Okay. The camera's shaking, I guess, because you're leaning on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Tell us when.
Live from Burbank, it's the Covenant Church Show! Tonight, our guest is Andrew Telthorst. We will be talking about music, ministry, and all the good things that God is doing at Covenant Church. Thanks for joining us. Now, here is Pastor Brooks.
Guys, what an exciting episode we have for the very first episode of Covenant Church. Let's bring out the Covenant Church musician, Andrew Telthorst. Andrew, so great to see you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I just realized I am wearing socks and no shoes, but that is just how comfortable we are on the Covenant Church show. This is about having a conversation, talking from the heart. We're not worried about formalities like shoes and that kind of thing. We are just here to have a good conversation. And so, Andrew, man, you have been such an encouragement to us at the church. You know, when we were getting going, we didn't know what the music would be like, who would be the musician, and God connected us together, and you are a guy who has just been so encouraging in the way that you come to youth group meetings. You are excited about the church. You're not just a hired gun musician. You've made the church your own, and so man, we so appreciate you, and so grateful for this opportunity to talk about what that's been like over the last 2 years almost. It's been a year and a half at least at Covenant. And so, man, tell us, how did you get into music just in general at the start?
How did I get into music? Well, I mean, I grew up, my mom was just playing piano, and so I feel like music was just always filling the household, just from a very early age. But I feel like church is what really got me into music. Like, I feel like just going to, when I was a kid, going to like the adult church and seeing all the musicians up there and seeing how they were just so skilled at their instrument, and it just felt like they were like really leading worship, it's just really super cool. And so I feel like church is what got me into that, and just, choir, handbells, and then like my older brother played guitar, and I just really badly wanted to play guitar.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's just kind of how it started off,
Okay.
Of course there's like school band and everything. But yeah, just music throughout the household and through church, I feel like is what really encouraged me.
Yeah, okay, and you've made music more than just a hobby. I mean, it's your career.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Just going through middle school and high school, just getting deeper into music, and I just feel like studying it, honing my own craft. And it was always something that I thought would just be like for fun and a hobby. But like kind of in the back of my head, I really wanted to do it seriously, but I was like, it's too much of a far stretch, you got to do something. I come from more very traditional household where it's like you do this, you do this, you do this,
Yeah.
So it just kind of wasn't in the question, and I was actually going to flight school. I was going to college for flying.
Okay. Well, and I knew that. Yeah.
So I was going to college for flying, but then, I failed the colorblindness test for my exam going in.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I was colorblind at the moment. And so it's just something I learned, and I learned that it would just be a lot harder to pursue that career. And then it really kind of forced me to question, what did I really think my talents were in life, and like what was a calling? And music had just always been there. It's always just been kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. It's guided me through my church experience. And so then I think just failing that test is kind of what gave me the freedom to be like,
oh, wow.
You know what? I was like, I want to do something a little bit against the norm. And literally just one day I looked up, the best production school for synthesis and sound design. And a school here in Burbank just popped up. And I don't know why, but I just set my sights on it. And ever since that moment, I came out here and started doing that. And I've just been trying to build a career in music,
That is so interesting that you say that, how a failed test, which I think is all of our nightmares, to have something we're pursuing, whether it's in school or anything else, and then to fail something, God has used in a way that, it's been the better thing.
I'm telling you, I think it just worked out better than I could have planned it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I tried to plan out my life, and then, like, LA had just been nothing I've ever thought of ever. Like, I never thought of living in that city. Maybe, like, in the back of my head, I was like, well, maybe, like, Nashville or New York at some point, but I
Okay.
just never thought LA. I didn't know that the production was here. I didn't know that the studios were here. And then when that just kind of everything lined up in place, I found roommates and housing and everything. And then it just ended up being an incredible jump. And I seriously think it's just like, it worked out so much better than I could have ever planned it.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, that's what we talk about all the time, at the church, especially as we've been going through the book of Acts, right? That trust in the Lord. and
Yeah.
There's this verse in Proverbs, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And that has been so good to see that fleshed out in your life and in the life of the church, and as that's really come together. Yeah.
Cool.
So tell us, how did you get connected with this particular church, with Covenant?
Wow. I was literally, I picked up a restaurant job and I was just hosting.
Yeah.
I was out there and just rent was coming in and bills were coming in. And I was like, wow, I really need to find a side gig. So I threw it out to my roommates and I was like, you guys, I'm kind of looking for something to pick up. And just a few days later, I'm really not on Facebook that much.
Yeah.
But my friend had sent me something that I think you put in for Icon, the school I went to.
Okay.
And it was like, church looking for, musician,
That's
blah, blah,
right.
blah. And just immediately he sent it over and I was at work and don't tell my boss, but pulled out my phone and I was looking at it and it looked pretty good. And literally just at the time I was like, well, this could be like a nice side gig and they could help me with the community a little bit and just get plugged in a little bit more.
Yeah.
And seriously, that just ended up growing into just having a family out here, and like having community. And that's just been like the coolest thing ever. But it was literally just that Facebook post. And then I think you responded to me like within the hour. And then like the next day you were like, it's boba time. We're getting boba. We're talking.
Yeah.
And now we're here. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's boba time.
Yeah,
Man,
literally.
every day it's boba time.
I was like,
But
where
that
sh-
was a great boba meeting. Yeah.
I was like, where should we meet up?
yeah.
And you're like, it's boba time. And I was like, okay, cool. What boba spot do you want to go to? And you're like, no, it's boba time.
That's the place.
But then it turns out there is a spot called It's Boba Time, which I have since learned and is very good.
Yes, yeah. So we met in downtown Burbank, and we talked about the kind of hopes that we had for music, the way that we thought God had really kind of prepared us as a church, where we had some people interested, including me, in more of the hymns and psalms, and so how. And that I don't know if you were really into had a lot of experience preparing hymns and psalms, for worship.
Pretty
And
much
so-
no experience,
Okay.
honestly.
And so okay, thinking about the hymns, thinking about the psalms, how has that impacted your life, your music, your view of God?
Yeah.
And yeah.
I come from a church back in Kansas where it was more of like, the contemporary Christian music, which is cool. There's like a lot of music that's being written like that, and that's awesome. And so that was what I was used to, like making the chord charts of kind of like today's music. And the hymns had always been played throughout the household. Like
Okay.
my grandma knows the hymns,
Got
she
it.
plays them, she was the piano player. My
Yeah.
mom plays the hymns, And so all of those hymns have been in my head.
Right.
But I think maybe a little overconfidence I had when we first met in downtown Burbank. I was like, I can definitely do this. And I was walking away, I was like, can I actually do this? But I was like, no, you've prepared music before. And I
Yeah.
was like, you've prepared music.
Yeah.
So now it just takes a little bit extra step, like go into the hymnal,
Right.
recognize the melody, learn the melody,
Right.
learn the music, and then
Right.
I think I would be able to lead it. But honestly, just like musically, like number one, musically, it's been just huge growth.
Okay.
Just because I think the discipline of like learning a melody that you might not know and like a time signature that you might not know or something,
Yeah.
and then getting it good enough to the point of being able to sing it,
Yeah.
for a congregation to,
yeah.
have worship is its own discipline. Like I really think it is.
Yeah, and doing that every week too.
Yeah,
It's not. I
yeah.
mean, you have a deadline.
Yeah.
It's Sunday morning.
Yeah.
It comes along, and maybe people don't know. A lot of people don't know. Perhaps we add in a new song most weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, and so that requires you going in because they're not made for guitar. I mean, like
No,
what we
it's like
use.
piano music.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think like a lot of the coolest thing about the hymns is just like I feel you can connect with a Christian community that maybe is not even here on earth anymore. It's just like from past, it's like
that's
these
right.
songs have carried them through, and like these have been worshipful to people of different times, and like that's just kind of cool in itself.
Yeah.
That the word just kind of
Yeah.
carries on through time like that, and especially with the Psalters. I mean,
Right.
like the Psalters are, I mean, those have carried on through time, you know?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
straight from the Psalm book, and then it's those put to hymn melodies. And
Right.
I think that's like so cool. And it also just like got me to open up the hymnal every week.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the hymnal has some good messages in there and has
Oh,
some
sure.
good life guidance, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just like learning those words and then the music together is just like a really powerful thing that I think like literally I'll just be at the grocery store and like the hymns or the psalms will like come up in my head, but just
That's right.
you know I've learned them and it's like melodies like that just stick in your head. And so now I feel like in times of trial or anything like those songs can just pop up, you know, it's
Yeah.
like when I need them. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Well,
It's
you
really
know,
crazy.
Yeah, and you won't at home won't know this, but you know, while we were setting up, I just was singing to myself a song that's been in my head, and Andrew said, "Oh, Psalter 191," you know, and
191,
I
yep.
hadn't even put that together.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just, and that's one of our psalms it's from the Psalter for this Sunday, and so I think it's Psalm
Coming up this week.
116. Yeah.
I love the Lord.
Yeah, yeah. What about when we met and you this did not faze you at all? I thought this would faze
Okay.
you when we met, but it did not. And that was the evening service. I said we meet twice on Sundays, you know, morning and evening, and you just said, okay, you know,
Yeah.
like that was something you totally expected. Was
Yeah.
that something that you totally expected having the evening service?
I don't think it was something I was expecting, but it was something that did not surprise me.
Okay.
Just because the church I come from, we had services all the time. There was like, you know, the early morning 7:45 ones, and then there was a 9:15, and then a 10:45, and then everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of the congregation would come back for the evening service.
Okay.
However, I think what did kind of like, not catch me off guard, but just was like a new thing to me was how you're talking about like the full day in worship. We have that morning service, and then the evening service, it's not for like just the evening crowd, although it's like it serves that purpose for people that can't
Sure.
make it in the morning, you know,
Sure.
that we have different worship times. But that was kind of the first time I had heard of doing that full day of worship where you really, you're there in the morning with the congregation and you sing the hymns, and you
Right.
sing the psalms and you hear the message. And then it's like, you reflect on the day and you truly let that
Right.
day be like the Sabbath. And then we all come back as a community together,
Yeah.
which is like a really cool idea because then it's just like we're closing off our day of worship, we're praising again, you know. So that was a new thing, although it didn't really catch me off guard because I'd already been used to being there in the morning and then coming back
Right.
for the evening, you know.
Right.
So it's something that was already kind of my lifestyle.
Okay. And you know, you said that didn't catch you off guard. Has there been anything that's caught you off guard or been a surprise to you in the time that because you've been there, I mean, almost right from the beginning as far as our public launch.
Yeah.
I think maybe we had met once or twice before you came, but it's hard. It's kind of fuzzy in my mind now. But then I think it was maybe the Sunday before we launched or our launch Sunday
Yeah.
when you were there. And
Yeah.
so anyway, so you've been there the whole time. So have there been any surprises or anything that you didn't expect that's kind of caught you off guard?
Wow, surprises or anything I didn't expect. I think didn't expect wise, just the learning curve of maybe how to lead the songs.
Okay.
Because just, you know, in the church bands I've played in, I've maybe just been the guitarist.
Yeah.
Or I've just been doing the words. And I can think of like one time before working here that I did both the words and guitar. And it was just like I was filling in at like one youth group one time.
Okay.
You know? So I think what caught me off guard was the learning curve of really not wanting it to be a performance. You know, like it's not a performance. And I thought like, oh, I just so easily slip into that. But in reality, when you're thinking about the chord changes, you're thinking about the time signature, you're thinking about the right keys, the melodies and everything, there is a level where you have to be like locked into what you're doing. But then I think like getting to that point of, I mean, just a prayer I have just every Sunday morning when I wake up is just like, Lord, let me get out of the way. Because I really just want it to be the message and the music.
Right.
And at the same time, it's that balance of like, well, you have to know where you are in the song, you know,
Yeah.
and you want to do a good job too, because I feel like that is what, like a beautiful music experience is like what allows someone to really connect with that, you know? And so I
Yeah.
feel like finding that balance has been unexpected, and just because like it is a learning curve, and I think it's something
Right.
to like get good at, where you can play them and sing them confidently, and at the same time really try to just be God's instrument, you know, and just like you work through me, you play through me.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, you know, one of the things that has been exciting to work with you on and that we've kind of been working on together is making sure that we keep the whole of the service as worship, versus,
Yes.
you know, because I think
Yes.
I think usually when people think of, oh, we're going to have a worship night, or, you know, they're thinking about music.
Yep.
But at Covenant, we look at things differently.
Yeah.
Where right from the call to worship through, I mean, everything we do, the confession of faith, the confession of sin, the assurance of pardon, the prayers, and of course the singing of psalms and hymns,
Right.
of course, and then the sermon. I mean, it's until the benediction, it's all worship.
Yeah.
And that's been really cool to work on together. You know, making sure that the whole atmosphere of the church, without turning off the lights and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because we wanted right from the beginning the church to feel like we weren't in any place that was so different that you couldn't have the same feeling throughout the week. Like, we wanted it to be like, you know, when you come to worship, that on Monday as well, you're still in that kind of worshipful mindset. And so, anyway, that's been cool to work on with you.
Yeah, that has been awesome.
So two kind of questions on this topic. Actually, just one more. Two more. What do you see as the future for music at Covenant Church? You know,
Good question.
We've had great music. You know, you on guitar has been awesome for the conference and all that too. But what would be, if you could have anything, I guess, you know, as far as our moving forward, would it stay the same? You know, someone on guitar, or would, you know, what do you think's the future?
You know, that's a great question, and I feel like it really does. Maybe that question evolves over a little bit of like who's joining the church or who's doing this, and like maybe the musicians that we might have available. But I've always just thought it was cool. First, I just want to say I think it's really cool that, like, I feel like you can come into Covenant Church and it kind of just feels like you're in the living room, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's cool. Like, there's something so unique. I feel like I've always been on like the big band with like a drummer, a bassist, 2 guitarists, an acoustic guitar up front, and 2 worship leaders.
Yeah.
You know? And that's awesome. Like, you can cover and you can make such a beautiful music experience with that. And at the same time, I think there's something so intimate about having a voice and a guitar. I feel like that's so easy. But just the future of it, I think it's just honestly what you and I have just talked about, you know, just here and there after the services or something, where it's like, how can we get a congregation member to come up and maybe hold down a bass line while I can take the chords, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, how can we elevate it? Like, some of these hymns have harmonies written in, like that could be really cool to add there. But I think, and I think we were just talking about this even just a few minutes ago, but preserving that, like, it doesn't feel different. Like, it's not a separate place where you come in where the lights are dimmed and there's a huge stage and there's a big sound system.
Right.
And that's cool. Like, that's awesome. Do not get me wrong.
It's great.
Like, that's
there's
awesome.
just a lot of churches already doing that.
Yeah, and not bashing that at all, because that is awesome.
100%.
And at the same time, having that like super intimate experience where I just love to see if like it's the congregation leading the congregation. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. And like, there's no separation from us, you know, and like that's what I think the future is like involving people that truly just want to like play and worship God.
Okay.
You know, and just collabing on that, and like maybe it looks a little bit different every week, but I think that'd be so awesome. Just people using their talents to glorify God. Is the future.
Okay. About once a week I get an invitation on Instagram to collab on some product. And it's all spam, of course, but this is not spam. If you play or you sing and you're a part of Covenant Church, you need to talk to Andrew, talk to me about getting involved in the band, because it's a blessing, you know?
Yeah,
and
it is. It's a blessing for the congregation, and seriously just for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. Just to do worship with that, and especially combine it with your talents is, I mean, I hope this isn't saying anything too crazy, but like, I think that's like God's purpose. It's like using your talents and glorifying God. You know, dare I say.
Right.
I know that's a very controversial statement to make.
That's right. Okay, so we are almost out of time, but I got 2 more questions.
Okay.
And so you've moved to LA for music. That was what brought you out here. What advice do you have for those who might be watching from Kansas, from the East Coast, who are considering a move to LA specifically to pursue music? And then second, what advice do you have for maybe Christians in music? Christians who are already here, Christians who are considering coming out. and then we'll end with both of those.
Okay, cool. So for the first one, just to any musician that wants to come out, just find a community. Community. That is the key to success, to growth. I think if you have an idea of like, oh, I'm just going to move to LA and make it, it does not work like that. I was very fortunate to come to a music school, and I think that was awesome. Just having other like-minded people that are pursuing the same thing. They have little intel about this event happening or this networking event, or they can help grow you in your abilities just by collabing with them. And honestly, for the second one, for a Christian musician, community. I feel like it's the same answer, especially with the church. I think that's awesome, just because, I mean, LA is a tricky city. It's a cool city and there's a lot happening, and at the same time there's temptation around every single corner. Every single corner. It's a tough city to be in, especially like with how fast paced it is and the rat race. And I think having a Christian community specifically is just, I mean, a no-brainer to me now. And it's just like, I think that's what really gets you to the next level, and really you feel supported in like pursuing your music career. You know, and if it's not that Christian community, just a music community, if you want to come out to music come out to LA for music, is so crucial. You really can't do this alone, and having those friends and collaborators and community is what yields success, in my opinion, in my short time being here.
Okay. Well, I think if I could just piggyback on what Andrew's saying, as we're looking for that community, Covenant Church is a church of prayer, worship, and love for our city. And so if you are considering moving out here, or you're already here, we'd love to welcome you to Covenant Church. Well, brother, it has been so good to have this conversation. To be on the first episode of Covenant Church Show. Yeah, be ready if you're watching this from home, because we're looking forward to having many more great guests on the show. I'm also hoping to come out to your workplace, to where you live, to have this same kind of conversation in a place where Covenant Church people are. And so we're really looking forward to that over the coming months and years, Lord willing. Let me pray for you, Andrew, and then we'll wrap up. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your love for us. I thank you for this church. I thank you specifically for Andrew and his ministry to us over these last couple of years and beyond. Father, I pray for Andrew. I pray for his continued encouragement in the Lord, his continued growth as a musician, as a Christian musician. Father, continue to bless him in these things. Bless this church, we pray, and help us to live for you every day, trusting in your promises to us, trusting in the Lord. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Brother, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
thank
you at home. All right.